host, Flint Anderson, and this is a historic podcast for us. This is episode 30, and I am thrilled that I have a very special guest today. We've tried to record with him before. My youngest son, Ashton, has attempted to sit in with us, but we couldn't stop being goofy enough or being silly enough to actually record anything. So he's got some questions. We decided to take some of our discussions that we've been having lately about him saving and getting ready to move out and share those discussions and some of those questions with you guys out there. Ashton has come to realize here lately that the world is kind of a big and scary place, and that the bubble he's been living in for a long time is just not necessarily going to pop, but things are going to change. Would you say that's true, Ashton?
Of course.
All right. Welcome. Welcome. Thank you for sharing some time, and thank you for being willing to talk about this in public. I know there's a lot of young men out there that are going to take some good information, some takeaway from this. So let's jump right into it. How old are you now, Ashton?
18, coming on 19 in August.
About to be 19. Still living in mom and dad's basement?
We're living in Florida. It doesn't have a basement.
True. Tell them what we've been talking about. I mean, I could say that, but I'm some old guy or some dad talking about it. So tell everybody what we've been talking about.
So basically, we've been talking about me recently trying to save and move out, obviously. I have multiple plans because if one fails, obviously, you got to go to another one. And you can't just have two plans. You got to have multiple. That's what I think. That's what you taught me growing up, is always be prepared and make sure if it does fail, then you're prepared for the failure fail. You know what I mean?
If it does fail, prepared for the failure fail. Wait, no, I don't know what you mean.
Okay, so so you have a plan. It fails. And then what if the backup plan fails? You got to have another one.
Oh, okay. Okay. So so plan number 2, plan number 3. Now, is that the same as having different goals? Or is that just having multiple plans for the same goal?
Be honest, you can do both, but me, it's just one single plan. Because, I don't know, my thought process isn't really good for multiple plans right now because I'm only focused on one thing.
Okay.
And that brings me to a question that I want to ask you. What would I do if all my plans fail? What would I do?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay, so today on Old Man Energy, we will be reversing it, and I will be answering dad questions in real time. I do not know what he wrote down. I told him to write some questions down, but we'll jump right into that. Okay, so state your question again.
How I have multiple backup plans. What would I do if all of my plans fail?
Wow, that's a good question. First of all, let me encourage you to be strong and resilient because all of your plans will eventually fail. That's pretty much a given. So what do you do? Well, one option is to lay down and give up. That's not a great option, but I mean, it is an option. Some people choose it. The thing about plans and when you're in the middle of implementing them is nothing ever looks the same at the end as it does at the beginning. So it's kind of like my calendar on a daily basis. I set my appointments, I try and have some structure to it, but by the end of the day, it doesn't look exactly the same because it's got to be tweaked and it's got to be adjusted as you go through the day. So the best encouragement I could give you is to review your plans often and stay flexible so that you can adjust as it's coming at you instead of just trying to continue to do the exact same thing that you planned even when things are going slightly differently. Because ultimately, what really matters with the plan, it's the end goal. How you get there doesn't really matter. The analogy that I use for this is if you're going to go from Orlando to Los Angeles, you don't fall in love with the plane. You don't really care what kind of plane you're taking, unless it's something that's been going on recently, but you don't really care what kind of plane you're taking. You just need to be in Los Angeles. So I would encourage you, if everything is falling apart, to stay as flexible as possible, back up, and don't lose sight of what your long-term goal is, and just find another way to overcome those obstacles and reach out for help when you need it.
So what you're basically saying is make a plan, like your main plan, make a duplicate plan the same exact way, but differently. Is that like mainly what you're saying, or?
The exercise that I've got you working through with making different plans is not so much because you need a bunch of different plans to accomplish the same thing, but I want you to get used to making different plans or in arriving at the same destination by different paths. That's the point of the exercise, not so that you okay, I have my notebook here and I've got 32 different plans that are going to get me to this destination with 17 steps on each one. And okay, I didn't expect this check to be bad or not to get paid this week. So, okay, that's plan 16, line 32. That's not what the point of the plan is.
Mhm.
The point of the plan is to get used to thinking through different exercises and different ways for you to get to the same goal, to get where you need to be. And I'm not going to disappear, and you're going to have other mentors over the years that you're going to follow and that you're going to listen to. And I'm going to encourage you to reach out for help whenever you're up against something that seems impossible. It's like, okay, it feels like everything's falling apart. What should I do? Because somebody that's been through it before, to them, it's not a tragedy. They're going to be able to help give you some direction on that. Get another question. This is fun. Get another question.
Yeah. We're just talking about the plans.
Mm-hmm.
What should I be looking out for while going out and trying to finish these plans or growing up without y'all? Because y'all won't always be there.
I don't know if that question necessarily relates to the plans or not. I'm not sure I exactly understand it.
I mean, I'm saying like, because I'm going through it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm doing the plan, go to Texas, all of that, New Mexico. You're not going to be there. What what should I be looking out for that I should not go near?
Okay, that's a little bit different of a question. Right now, your plan is fairly career based. You're either looking at getting some technical skills, maybe picking up some college classes, but your goal, and you haven't shared that, is to go and start looking at working a job in the oil field and possibly pursuing a career out there. Mm-hmm. So what should you be looking out for? What should you not be looking out for? Well, one thing, and a lot of young guys struggle with this, and I don't think you do, and you never really have, is I would focus on yourself first. I wouldn't be worried about finding a relationship, be worried about getting married, be worried about any of that. And I'm not saying don't date and don't talk to young ladies and things like that, because that's important. It's another important area of growth. But don't be in a hurry to jump into a relationship before you've established yourself personally. I would focus on your work and what you're going to be doing there to learn as much as you can. And I would focus on yourself. Make sure that you're building yourself up mentally, that you're learning, that you're going to school, whether it's for your trade or for something else that you want to do. And focus on yourself physically. Make sure that you're in shape. Make sure you're hitting the gym. Make sure that because if you're in shape, your brain is going to be sharper. You're going to be physically capable of doing more, and you'll be able to handle more stress as you come through. So if I had it to do over again, I would focus on those three things exclusively.
I also have another question that probably doesn't relate to anything that we were just talking about.
Okay, well, before you ask that question, I want to follow up on something too. And for those of you out there that are listening, guys, if you are young, and this applies to young ladies too, but if you're young, you don't have a family commitment, you're just getting out on your own, the one statement that I've made to all of my kiddos is, listen, you can go have some adventures, get away, get out of your hometown. If you come back, cool, it's always going to be there. So that's not a problem, but go see things. You can get a shitty bartending job or a shitty waitress job anywhere in the country. And if you don't have a lot of commitments, it's a hell of a lot easier to go out and have those experiences and have those adventures now while you're young. Make those memories. They're going to give you some life experience, and you're going to enrich your life that much more because of it. The struggle and the adventure will both make your life better. That is exactly what I did.
To a T.
Okay.
So you said don't get in a relationship, right? Well, don't try.
I said I wouldn't encourage it. I believe is the exact words I used.
What if I happen to get into a relationship while trying to do one of those plans?
Well, love is not a pit. It's not like you're walking along and trip and fall. Oh shit, look, I'm in love. It's a hole. This sucks. That's not, we describe love as a pit. So
that's not what it was. I kind of said it wrong. So say I get a relationship and I start getting off track. How would you encourage me to get back on track? If you I don't know how to explain it.
Okay, well, that is a good question. And I think I understand the gist of what you're saying, because young people tend to be attracted to each other, and you have a lot of hormones and a lot of emotions, and everything is new. And so, cool, no problem there. If you go back and listen to one of the first episodes when Josh was visiting, he addressed this question too, almost word for word. We addressed this question with him. Now, he's already in a relationship. But let's say that you are dating and you find somebody that you want to spend some time with and you think you might want to grow together with. Well, first of all, there's some criteria. One, she should encourage you. She should not take away from your goals and plans. She should encourage you to go forward with your goals and plans. It shouldn't be a fight. Relationships are difficult enough when you both are on the same team and working together, but it shouldn't be a fight for you to have to go to work, for you to have to go to the gym, for you to need to go to school. And it should enhance your life. And any relationship you have, and this goes for guys or girls, is the relationship should enhance your life and make your life better. Now, granted, it doesn't mean it won't be challenging, but it should make your life better. You guys, instead of standing there staring into each other's eyes and being all goo-goo and gaga for each other and not paying attention to shit, you should be standing side by side looking forward together. And the plans that come together should just start coming together naturally, even in times of strife. So I would say be careful, and you don't have to make long-term commitments right now. If you get into a relationship in your early 20s, then if she's the right one, she'll still be there in your mid to late 20s, and you guys will have already started building a life together.
I want to ask a question about like the real world.
The real world? That sounds heavy.
Yeah. So like me moving out, this actually makes me pick up a lot of questions for you.
Okay.
So I'm moving out soon. Hopefully. I will. Don't worry. I'll get out of your hair soon.
I want you to. Actually, maybe. I don't. I'm split, dude. I'm split because I really like who you are as an adult, and we're pals, and we have been since you were little. So that part of me is selfish and doesn't want you to go because you know what? Now we're able to hang out and we're able to do fun stuff together and things like that. And I'm really going to miss that. But at the same time, you need to go make your own way in the world. You need to go make your own path. You need to establish your own family. Because if you were to live as this perpetual child, that's not doing you any good, and it's not doing me any good. And it's depriving the world of a young man who's going to be a good husband and a good father and a good leader and a good example of what it is to be a strong young man in the world today.
Yeah, that gives me to my question. Should I be excited to go out into the real world?
Absolutely. Aren't you? You should be terrified and excited at the same time.
That's also one of my other questions. Why is it scary to me?
Okay, fair enough. I'm gonna answer both of those. So here, look, the unknown is exciting. Making plans for yourself is exciting. The idea that we determine our own destiny and what we do moving forward is exciting. The fact that we've never done any of that before as young people is terrifying. And that's okay. It's okay to be scared of something, but it's not okay to let that control your actions to the point where you don't act on it. So it's and I don't remember who said it, but when you're afraid to do something, you do it anyway. And that's actually bravery. Bravery is not, okay, I'm terrified. Well, I'm not scared anymore because I'm brave. And then you go do it. That's not it. Bravery is, okay, I'm terrified of this, but I'm going to go do it anyway. So it's the same thing with ignorance. And a lot of fear comes from ignorance because if I were to step out today at my age, and go look up the definition of ignorance, folks. It doesn't mean stupid. It means lack of information. So if I were to go out at my age today and have to start completely over again, I wouldn't be scared of that because I've done it before, because I have experience.
You know how to do it.
I know how to do it. I know how not to do it. I know a bunch of different ways to do it because I've got experience in doing it. You have never done it before. It's all just a bunch of theory to you. So you have this burning desire that you want to go do something, and you want to go do something on your own. And that's normal, by the way. You should want to move on and establish your own life. If you don't feel that way, then you're way too comfortable at home. So, but you're scared of it because you've never done it before. And that's all right. Now, how do you overcome that fear? You just start doing it. Okay. Just pick a date. Here's when I'm going. Here's what I'm doing. And there's ways to pick that. I need to have this much money saved. It'll never be perfect. But you get as close as you can by that specific date, and then you just freaking go for it.
Yeah, it's kind of scary.
I didn't ever say it was easy or not scary.
Yeah.
Worth it. But those two never came out of my mouth.
This is another question.
Okay.
How do you and mom feel about me leaving? Do you know how mom feels?
Well, mom would say, go on, get the hell out of here. Get out. Go away. That was what she would say. There's a little bit more emotion to it than that. Now we're excited for you. We're happy for you. But we also both truly believe that I mean, you got to get out there and make your way in the world. You don't realize that all of you kiddos, and I'm going to take a minute because if any of my other children are listening to this podcast, you guys all have an open invitation to call me and come sit down and ask me any questions without telling me what they are ahead of time. Whatever, we'll make an episode out of it. And that includes those of you that are upset with us at any given time. And yes, listeners, please try not to be shocked. Out of 7 children, and not all of them are happy with us 100% of the time. Anybody that tells you that is lying. But that being said, mom's happy for you. She's excited. She doesn't want you to stagnate.
What does that mean?
Is sit in your bedroom, play your video games all the day, and let us pay the bills. She doesn't want to see that. She wants to see you go out there and become the man that you truly are. Mom is a little bit more rough around the edges than I am. So she definitely, go on, get out of here. I can't wait. You leaving tomorrow? Let me help you pack. Here's a roll of garbage bags. All the different things Mom has said over the years. Well, she bought you luggage. So how do I feel about you leaving? I think I explained that a few minutes ago. Personally, it's time. I'm excited for you. I'm going to miss the hell out of you, and I like having you around, but it's not the right place for you. It's not. It won't help you grow. It won't help you get out there and make a difference. Now, there's part of me that envies you a little bit. I envy you a lot being in that position.
What's
not
envy.
Envy is not. Just getting a chance to do that for the first time, because you never get a chance to do this for the first time again. This is it. So the fun part is you're going to go out there and you're going to make some mistakes. You're going to screw some stuff up, and you're going to have a hard time. And there's going to be times life's kicking you in the teeth. It's going to be times you're winning, and you're going to be doing it all for the first time. And, I remember a lot of that from when I was growing up and from when I was younger. And I wish I could go back and undo some of the mistakes. But, one thing I found is that those mistakes are what teach us who we are moving forward. So I am super excited to hear about your journey and about those decisions and those struggles and those challenges that you're going to run into along the way. So I envy you a little bit, but I'm ready for you to go. I'm ready for you to go have their next great adventure.
That's also give me another question. What's the difference between me growing up and the other children?
I don't know. I think that's a question for you, isn't it?
It's really not.
Okay.
How your perspective?
How do you want me to frame that? I guess. From what position is that question being asked? Because there's a lot of different ways I can answer that question.
Like how many times we've all, I don't know how to explain it. How do I explain it? The difference. Let's put Haley in perspective.
Okay.
Haley probably watched the podcast, but she does.
Yeah.
What was the difference between me growing up and then her growing up?
A lot. A lot. You guys, just to give some background, if this is your first time with us or you haven't heard any of the podcasts where we've talked about our children and our history, Des and I have 7 children. The 3 oldest were hers when we got married, and we adopted Haley, Gary, and Ashton. And then John came along into the mix when he was a teenager. So that's where our 7 come from. Ashton, you are the only one that we've had since birth. So that maybe alters the perspective of things a little bit. And one thing, if you're a young person listening to this answer, because I'm going to give a very harsh, heartfelt answer, and it may come across as mean, or it may come across as however you take it. But understand that each of us is only going through life for the first time. So we do our best to make a difference and to make the best choices that we can as parents, as kids growing up, as grandparents, as uncles, as aunts, whatever role we happen to play. We're doing our best at that time, and we're doing what we can at that time. And it's very easy to take a lot of our history and a lot of what's happened in the past and use that as a catalyst for failure, use that as excuses for not getting ahead, use that for reasons in general to blame somebody else for what the circumstances of our life are. Well, none of us asks to be born. We all have to work with what we're given. And some of us chose to try and make that a little better, even given, and in the older kids' example, even given their history. John's history was quite chaotic. That's his story to tell. I'm not going to tell that on here, but he did come from a very broken, chaotic background. Haley and Gary, Definitely there was some abuse issues there. There was some neglect issues. There was just a lot of circumstance during their developmental fundamental years that we did our level best to overcome. And by giving each of you the opportunity to do better, to do well, teaching you guys the skills that you need, trying to be there for you, trying to show you that there's a better way in the world, always with love. I love all of you kiddos unconditionally. And that will never change, and that has never changed. And mom is the same way. Mom is a very harsh person. She's not as emotional as I am. She has mellowed out a little bit these last couple of years, but the fact is that as we raised you guys, we were doing the best that we could given what we had to work with and given our skill set that we had to work with. Each and every one of you was given the same opportunity to succeed or fail. And to compare you with your brothers and your sister and your sisters is not fair. It's not fair to you, and it's not fair to them, because the circumstances of your origination are all different. Gary fights different battles mentally than you do. Haley fights different battles mentally than you do, than I do, than Gary does. Kyle, the same way. Kirsty and Casey, you guys all have your positions where you came from and all different traumas and things that have happened in the past. Some of that can be overcome. All of it can be overcome. I don't believe there's anything out there that can't be overcome, but some of it's easier to overcome than others. Some of it can be overcome just by thought. Some of it can be overcome by talking. And, sometimes it needs to be overcome by just full separation. I don't like that because, you know what, I always envisioned you guys growing up and all the kiddos over here and the grandkiddos and the spouses on Sunday afternoons. And it was like that for a little while. But as you guys have grown up and gone your own separate ways, it's kind of grown apart. We've gotten away from that. So I look forward to seeing that in the future.
I feel like the only reason I am where I'm today is because of him. Because let's say this, say I was the only child, I wouldn't get I'd get in way more trouble than I was now because I didn't know what was wrong compared to what I know now. Say Gary did something, he got in trouble for it, I instantly knew I'm not doing that. So I'm not doing that. Haley got some in trouble, I'm not doing that. So I learned off their mistakes, so I had no mistakes. I mean, that's not saying I didn't have mistakes. I've had plenty of mistakes because Gary and them didn't do it. That's the point. So if they did everything that I know, I'd be probably 99% perfect. But I'm not.
Okay.
That's my take on it.
Well, it's impossible to learn everything from somebody else's mistakes, but we can learn some things from other people's mistakes. So there is that. You did have a unique opportunity to watch a lot of different issues growing up. We had a very active, robust life for a long time. There was always something going on. Very chaotic when all of you guys were home.
Yeah.
Your statement about 99% perfect. I don't know how much we can actually achieve learning from the mistakes and the failures of others. A lot, but I don't think it's anywhere close to 99%.
I'm saying if they the mistakes I made are because I didn't see them make that mistake. So I didn't know if it was a mistake or not. That's what I'm trying to say. So if they did the things I mistake for, then I would do nothing wrong. But obviously, I've done a lot of stuff wrong. I've messed up in school, didn't want to go to school ever, late for work because I didn't set my alarm. Yeah, that was actually bad.
That's still a little raw, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, when you called me, let's talk about that for a minute. This happened yesterday, folks. He overslept, and he called me on his break. And what were you doing when you called me?
Sitting in the parking lot.
No, okay. But I mean, what were you? Tell him what you told me on the phone. Tell him how you felt about that, about what was going on.
I felt disappointed in myself
because
I knew I made a mistake.
But you were kind of upset with your boss for giving you a hard time because you just asked to pick up extra hours and everything else. And then the very next day, you're 2 hours late for work.
I'm an hour.
Oh, an hour late. Okay.
It's just, I like Charles. Charles is amazing. Charles is a really good guy. But I didn't know all the story. See, that's the one thing we want to get into. If you don't know the full story, don't try to jump ahead. You know what I'm saying? That's what I also learned more of yesterday. I got in trouble because I thought I was being singled out and like nobody was talking about anybody else but me. But the real comes to real, I am 18 and all the other ones are minors. So I have more, I take more responsibility than anyone there. So that's what also I learned about more being an adult as well. You can't just like goof off like you are when you're 17. When you turn 18, it's a whole different ballgame.
True. Now, you were kind of feeling sorry for yourself when you called me.
Yeah, which
You're kind of upset about getting in trouble and getting called out. And what did I tell you? How did I handle that? What'd you take away from that?
don't do it again.
Dude,
And it's my fault.
do you remember what I said specifically? I remember.
I don't remember.
I told you, I said, well, you know what? There are consequences to our actions, and you deserve this. You earned it. You need to own it. What did I suggest you do to overcome it?
Work harder.
Okay. So tell us about the rest of the day after your break or after your lunch break. You went back in. Tell us what happened the rest of the day and how the day ended up.
The day ended up me doing a better job than almost literally everyone in there. And Charles actually giving me a compliment for the first time in ever.
Charles is his direct boss, by the way.
I learned a lot more stuff like to do in the building.
Okay.
Like I didn't just do busing, I was doing server assistant, host.
Do you think that would have happened if you'd gone back in with that feeling sorry for yourself attitude and that chip on your shoulder that you came out with?
No, I would have probably put myself in a deeper rut leading to getting fired.
I'm going to share with you the other end of that conversation because here's the thing, guys. Whether you like it or not, you're always being a leader and you're always being watched. And you may not feel like that, but you are. And this is going to be a perfect example because while he was at work yesterday, I was doing some community service work and some volunteering, and I had the young man that I mentor through the Florida Youth Challenge Academy riding around with me yesterday. We were just spending the day together. We were doing community service. He was listening to me work. We went and ate lunch. It was just a very normal, it was actually a really fun day. We had a great day together. But one of the times when we were riding in the truck is when Ashton called, and he was talking, and he was just had the chip on his shoulder and was upset. Oh, they're this, oh, they're that. And really, he was upset with himself for being late. And when I called him and I called him out on it, I said, you know, you deserve it. You just got to take it. The only way to overcome it is work. And then we finished the conversation. It wasn't a bad conversation. And then we always make it a point to say, I love you. The kids used to make fun of me about that when they were younger. They might still. Said, I love you, and got off the phone. And Damien was sitting there. He was just being quiet. And he said, you know, he goes, that was awesome. I wish I had that. And I was like, I'm like going through my head. I'm like, well, I just got done griping at my son and telling him to man up and just deal with the consequences to his own actions. And Damien said something pretty profound. And he said, you know, he goes, that was a very normal dad and son interaction. And I've never had anything even close to that. And he was kind of quiet. He listened to that. So he heard the stuff that I teach him as a mentor. He heard it reinforced because I teach the same thing here. But he also got to hear the fact that men can push each other. We can be harsh on each other because guys are always going to be harsher on other guys than anybody else. Yet we can still love each other and with compassion. And while that was the gist of the conversation between you and I, all he heard was the normalcy of it, how casual it was, and how much love and mutual respect there was between us. Mm-hmm. So remember this, folks, whenever you are out there living, just being yourself, somebody's watching, and somebody who might really need your message is watching. So when you hear the statements like your mess is your message or your story needs to be told, it's absolutely true because somebody out there needs to hear what you've got to say, which is why we're doing this here, having these conversations. So what else you got? These are fun.
I just been going off the dome recently.
Off the what?
Off the dome.
Off the dome. I thought you said off the dumb. I'm like, what the hell is that?
You know what off the dome is, right? You're not too old for that?
I'm not too old for that. I did raise 7 of you little shit.
I mean, you're starting to learn Gen Z lingo. How's that going out for you?
No cap, it's not sus.
Okay, listen, that was not it. Don't ever do that again.
That was pretty good. I think I nailed that.
Yeah, you did. You did. You did.
Bruh.
All right. That's been around before you were. You've heard the word.
There was a time that he thought that Gen Z invented the slang word simp.
I didn't ever think that.
Yeah, you did, because you were like, do you even know what simp means, Dad? I'm like, yeah, that was in our songs back when I was your age, younger than you, for that matter.
Okay, you make me look like an idiot right now. Actually, about the relationship thing.
Okay.
When you were growing up, obviously you've had multiple relationships. How did that work with your work? Did it ever like ruin anything at all?
No. But it was not because I was a masterfully good person at making positive relationships. Yeah, it was just simply because,
So I learned that positive stuff from you.
Yeah, well, I learned my typical learning style. Like everybody they talk about has their love language. Oh, I'm touch. Oh, I'm words. I believe there's several learning styles. My learning style is bash your head against the wall and do everything possible wrong until you figure out how to do it right. So my relationship history was not great before I met your mom. Been married a couple of times before that, and both of them ended for different reasons. They didn't end well at all. But one thing that was consistent and was constant was work. I was always going to work. Mm-hmm. Now, there were times when, and I use this story as an example, this wasn't exactly a relationship, but I remember when I was in high school, I did have a girlfriend in high school, and work would come in on a Friday. I would be so pissed off. Because we had plans Friday night. Hey, we're going to the mall. We're going to the movies. And it's typical late 80s, early 90s Gen X date night. I was like, all right, cool. But I was never pissed off because I had to go to work. I was pissed off because I knew I was going to go to work.
But when you get there, you're perfectly fine.
Huh?
But when you get there, you're perfectly fine.
Even if I was still mad, I still worked. But I mean, I didn't want to have to call my girlfriend and say, hey, we can't go out tonight. We're going to have to go tomorrow. I got to work. We just got a house in and we got to go do it. I remember that very specifically. You know what? I probably remember it differently. I probably was a bit of an asshole on the job site, but I never was not going to go to work. Yeah. So even through some of the relationships that were intensely toxic in my past that tried to impact the work, I would always, if things got worse at home, I poured myself more into my work and I was gone more. That's always been my solution to everything, was just work harder, work more, see what I could do to get ahead. Maybe it'll eventually work itself out. Because fundamentally, I knew that no matter what happened, I had to keep income coming into the household, no matter how bad things were. That eliminating that really created a lot more problems. So any takeaway from that would be, do not let relationships, no matter how good or bad they are, impact your work ever.
Would you say you would do you regret your choice of work? Like when you were growing up, you could do construction. Did you ever want to do anything else, but you thought to yourself you couldn't?
I've never thought to myself that I couldn't do anything. I've always believed that I could do anything I ever wanted to do. I can't say I regretted construction because I really liked fixing things. I still like fixing things. Mm-hmm. Like taking something broken and making it whole again. That's what did I say, like it's broken. I like and making it whole again. So, and the construction was just that. We were fixing old things. We were changing things and making them beautiful. So I never looked at it as a grind or as a low budget or low income opportunity. And whenever I wanted to do something different, well, I tried to go do something different. That's how ultimately I have this massive experience, not only in sales, but in the corporate industry and in the blue collar industry. So I have all these different things that I can pull on. And I talked about that on Marshall's podcast a little bit. I don't know if you listened to that whenever I was talking. If I wanted to do something different, I picked what I wanted to do, did the research on it, made a plan, and then went after it. For example, right after I first moved out here, you weren't born yet, but my entire industry went away. I was a .com executive. That's where I made my money. I had a job lined up here in logistics in that technical area. And 3 months later, that didn't exist anymore, including the position I was supposed to go to. I know we had some savings, but not much. And I had a real serious discussion with your mom. I said, look, I'm 25. I'm used to making 6 figures a year. And the only way and that was a lot of money 30 years ago or 25 years ago. The only way I'm going to be able to recreate this and do this is if I go sell something. And I'd done some retail sales before. like in a Sears, or it was a Montgomery Ward at the time, for those of you who know that. But I'd never done any kind of direct sales or anything else, but I knew that I could make the money that I wanted to make doing that. But I told her, I said, it's going to take me at least 90 days before we see any kind of return or residual from this, and it's going to be hard. We're not going to have any money. And she supported me, but I made my plan. I laid it out and went and did it. So that's led to me doing now what I do, being able to be a men's coach, being able to be a business coach, being able to take all of that knowledge and all those mistakes that I made and give back and help other people have better businesses, be better fathers, be better husbands, be better leaders. So no, I don't regret any of it at all. The only thing I regret is not leaving college sooner than I did. And I wasn't there long.
Yeah. How many states have you been? How many states have you lived in?
Oh my goodness. How far back you want me to go? All the way?
Yeah, all the way since birth.
Since birth. Okay, let's see. This is interesting. New Mexico and Texas, Nevada, Florida, South Carolina. Never lived in.
It was Albuquerque, New Mexico, dude.
I was born in Albuquerque. Yeah, Albuquerque.
Does grandma still live there? Where does she live in New Mexico?
Grandma lives in Carlsbad now. Yeah, lived in Texas off and on. Lived in South Carolina. Never lived in Georgia.
How's your experience in Texas?
You say I lived most of my life there. I guess I didn't. I lived about half of my life there.
Half in Florida, probably.
I don't like, half of it in Florida, but I don't like West Texas.
Do you like Odessa?
I hated Odessa. Oh God.
What was wrong with Odessa?
Like when I was in school, I was constantly bullied. In Odessa, I was kind of on my own as far as I'd come into my own there, and I didn't really give a shit about school at that point, except for finishing. That was it. So that was all right. But that was at the end of me coming into my own, growing up, hitting puberty, and coming out of that awkward stage where I just didn't give a rip if people bullied me or not. But it just there was no, for me, there was no opportunity. I didn't really fit in very well out there. Did not want to work in the oil field. And there were some family name issues at the time, reputations and things like that I didn't want to have to deal with. So the best thing I can tell you is I was a city kid that didn't fit in the country. I moved to Dallas as quickly as I could. Well, Fort Worth.
So how many places in Texas did you live?
Oh man, I lived all over Texas. I lived in Odessa, lived in Crane for a little while, lived in San Angelo for a little while, lived in Fort Worth, lived in Dallas. Yeah, I think that's it.
Is it true that you had to drive 5 miles to the nearest gas station?
Oh God, people on the East Coast have no concept of how big the West actually is. You can't fathom it.
You think Texas is all about football and trucks? You heard that controversy?
Oh my God! Listen, Texas is sports. Texas is football. Texas is like its own country, and there is nothing wrong with that. But man, when you were in the late 80s and early 90s and you didn't play football in West Texas as a dude, they wondered if you were
visiting.
Weird.
If you were just visiting from Florida.
Oh man, I did not fit in out there. That's for sure.
You didn't like football, did you? You still don't?
I just didn't care about it. It's not that I didn't like it. I just didn't care about it. I still don't care about it. No.
That's not liking it.
I can not care about something and not dislike it.
I know, I was kidding.
But yeah, I just didn't care. I really didn't.
You didn't play sports in high school?
Didn't play sports in high school. Didn't discover weights until my early 30s. And which is about that and roller skating are the only two things I've ever really been good at when it came to physical activity.
How early did you start roller skating?
God, I was probably 4 or 5. That's one of my earliest childhood memories, was learning to roller skate in front of my grandma's house. Yeah, I've always been able to skate, and never been a thing.
That's fun.
Yeah. So
Florida, what's different between Florida and Texas? Well, obviously from we all know.
Yeah. So in what way? Are they humidity? But there's parts of Texas that are humid.
I'm saying job wise, traffic wise.
I can't really answer that question. I don't know, because I know a lot of people that live in Texas. I got a lot of followers that live in Texas, but I haven't driven around Texas in as long as I can remember, other than to drive through there a couple times over the years. But
God,
and
worst 5 hours of your life.
Job wise, again, I don't know. I'm not there, so I couldn't speak to that. But I'm sure some of my followers could tell you exactly what's that. So I have a couple. Go ahead, and then I have a couple questions for you.
So when you lived in Odessa, you said you hated it. What about it did you really hate, other than the life you had growing up?
Small town football, West Texas mentality.
Were you living with your mom at the time or your dad?
I was living with dad at the time, or living on my own. So my senior year of high school, I lived on my own. And that might have led to some of my distaste for there. And guys, there's nothing wrong with West Texas, and there's nothing wrong with Odessa. My personal preference, I don't want that to blow anybody out. It was my personal preference, and these are feelings that are deep-seated that went back to high school. So understand, I have only been back there a handful of times since high school, and that was 30 years ago. So, I mean, I don't have anything against it. It just wasn't for me. I didn't really fit. When I got to Fort Worth and was in the city, I preferred that. I felt like I fit in better and have made that a point since then. Even as mom and I get ready for retirement and we're looking for land and stuff, we're still looking to stay close enough to the cities that I'll be able to thrive and function. So we're coming up with some kind of a hybrid model. Now, what's the biggest thing that you're afraid of now that you're coming up on this and you're getting ready to move out? What's the biggest thing?
Biggest thing I'm afraid of?
Yeah.
Failure.
Okay.
That's why I'm talking about the plans.
I got some bad news for you.
Yeah, well, I'm going to have to fail.
You're absolutely going to fail.
Yeah.
And you're going to do it over and over and over again. That's okay. Quitting is not okay.
Wouldn't that be one reason you should be in a relationship? For someone to talk to and help you? Not, like, lift you off your feet to help you out, you know what I mean? Because, I know you've had a handful of times where mom was like, it'll be okay.
More than a handful of times.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, no, that's huge.
Wouldn't a relationship help with that, though?
Using that definition, yes. But the problem is that additional added stress at the very beginning of a relationship creates strife and can drive a wedge into a relationship.
What if you don't have that stress? What if you're not worried about that stress at all?
I can't answer that. I've never known a time when I wasn't worried about something. I mean, I was always, there's always something coming down there.
Were you an overthinker in relationships?
Yeah. At the beginning, I was a lot.
Was your honeymoon phase?
Well, not even the honeymoon phase. It was one of the things that I had to do to grow and mature into a relationship was understand that I wasn't responsible for the feelings of your mom or for anybody around me for that matter. The only person's feelings I was responsible for were my own. And not meaning, okay, I can just go hurt people's feelings randomly for no reason. That's not what I mean. But if mom woke up in a bad mood or she was having a hard day, it was my job to be there, but it wasn't my job to fix it. And early on in our relationship, I was very much a fixer. I would try and fix everything, and it caused a lot of strife because she wanted to be left alone, and I'm all up in her business trying to make it go away. And that was pretty much a trauma response from when I was younger and learning to deal with problems in a very ineffective way, but it made them go away. So to answer your question, a relationship should enhance your life. It shouldn't be any harder. So if you're at the beginning of a phase of a dating relationship and she understands that you got to work and sometimes you got to reschedule dates and it's just easy to continue that friendship with her, and then that moves on into other things, you know what? You'll know. It may be effort to work on the relationship, but it won't be hard to have the relationship. So, but also to help you understand, a friendship with some guys can help bridge that gap. A good relationship with your parents can help bridge that gap. Even just a phone call to them. Hey, what's going on? Grandparents, mentor. That role in helping you mitigate stress and overcome issues as you move forward can be handled a number of different ways, not just by a romantic partner. So is there a reason you're asking about the relationship? Is that on your plan, or is your plan just for work, or what?
I have curious. A lot of things in mind. It's not any relationship, but it's nearly the oil rig. Biggest thing in my plan right now.
You want to work on an oil rig?
Yep. It's a dance with death. That's what they say.
You'll definitely test yourself as a man, but some of the roughnecks I've known are some of the toughest SOBs I've ever met in my life. And the thing is, the roughnecks are typically generally pretty big guys, but I've known some little dudes that were tough as shit too. It's kind of like your brother Kyle. I think, what does he weigh? $150. He's one of the toughest dudes I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
So you get out there and test yourself and try. This is the time to do that. Go Go start. I'm going to encourage anybody who's listening to this, and we got time for maybe one or two more questions, and we're going to wrap this up. But encourage anybody out there to go try something, especially guys. Go try something that's hard. Go try something that's going to test your mettle, is going to make you exhausted, is going to test your strength. And I don't care if you go lift in the gym, go do a job that's hard. If you want to go into sales and you're terrified to talk to people, go out there and fuck some shit up. Get out there and make some mistakes. It will enhance your life. Even if you fall flat on your face over and over again, you'll come up at better because of it. You got a last question for me?
I don't know. I feel like would I regret moving to Texas?
Not at all. Only if you let yourself. If you get out there, fall flat on your face, lose everything you've got, and start over completely, it'll either be the best time of your life, it'll be the worst time of your life. And that is entirely up to you. I was talking to a buddy of mine the other day, to use this as an example, and he already has a family established. And I'm not going to tell too much of his story, but he's in a position of starting over.
What happened?
Again, not my story to tell, but he's in a position of starting over. And instead of looking at it as, oh my God, I've lost everything and it's all falling apart and this and that, and made some bad decisions and some of this wasn't my fault and oh, poor me. It was, I don't know how to fix this or that.
Probably the worst thing you can do in that time of action is feel bad for yourself.
It's also the easiest thing to do during that time. But whenever we sat down and talked, I was like, man, I said, this is an exciting position to be in. And he looked at me like I had three heads. He goes, what the hell are you talking about? What? Because I just told, did you even listen to what I just said? And I said, look, I said, you're at zero. You have
nothing to lose.
You have nothing to lose. You have infinite shots on goal. You can do anything at this point, and it's better than where you're at. That's a perfect starting point. You don't have anything to lose. Shoot on the goal as many times as you need to until you hit it. So it's a matter of framing your perspective.
That's what I'm saying, because a lot of people out there, like, this is my point of view on it. I want you to, like, see if you have any critique. So many people would save up money, right? Mm-hmm. How they start off, they get a house first. Well, to me, that's the first mistake. Why would you get a house if you can get a car that costs less and the insurance is already less than a house, and you're also mobile and you can live in a car?
Well, some people don't want to live in a car.
But I'm not saying that you have to, but I'm saying, like, it's easier. Like, if you want to reach your goal faster, that's what I feel like you should do. Get a cheap car. Insurance, what, $300, $400, at most $600, depending on what car you have. It has room in it, right? And you can go places.
There's a lot of people out there that live in their vehicles, and they do it on purpose.
Yeah.
I've done some
stationary.
Okay, I'm not going to second guess your choice. One, I don't know if I could do that because I like having a bed to go to sleep in. But that's just me. Now, could I live in an RV? Yeah, which is similar to that. But
I'm saying if you're dirt poor.
Look, I have done some insanely crazy shit in the pursuit of goals. And mom and I are in the position of doing some more stuff that people are going to look at us like, oh my God, what the hell is going on with them? Those guys are nuts. So I'm not going to knock what you just said, because you know what? If that gets you to your ultimate goal faster.
I'm not saying I want to live in a car or anything, but I'm saying, like,
but if you have to, and that's part of what you got to do to get to where you want to go, cool. And if you're choosing to do that, you know what? That's fine too. But if you're not choosing to do that, then do it if you have to, but get out of it as fast as possible. But again, I mean, if that's what it takes to get where you're going, then who the hell am I to second guess how you implement your goals? I'm right there for you. Now, if you are depressed and cry yourself to sleep every night because you got to sleep in your car, then it's not doing any mental good for you getting closer to your goals. Probably need to do something different. But if you are going to sleep in your car and you crash out every night and you're like, God, I just saved $300 on a hotel or $1,200 on rent or whatever again this month, and your positive attitude about it, hell, knock yourself out. I like hearing the most interesting stories that people tell about reaching their goals are the ones that are the craziest, when they did the crazy shit. So, yeah, I mean, I don't encourage that, but if that's your goal and that's your dream and that's what you want to do and the way you choose to implement it, man, I'm not one to second guess you for that.
I'm not saying I'm going to do it or anything, but I'm just saying, like, I feel like if people out there are really struggling to look for houses, it doesn't hurt for a couple of nights to sleep in a car.
Yeah, okay, you're right. That's a harsh reality, and it's one that I'm glad I didn't really have to deal with growing up, because housing is insanely difficult for young people right now.
Yes.
And I wish that there were some good options out there. And I think there's some coming up, but I don't think there's anything in place right now that's really going to help a lot. However, it doesn't change the fact that you have to have somewhere to live, and you shouldn't mitigate the dreams and the goals that you have based on the current circumstances today. If the dream is big enough, the facts don't matter. So always make sure that you're focused on your dream. You take your dream, turn it into a goal, and you work like the devil after your goal. You do everything you possibly can until you get there. And when you get there, you got another goal to run after. That's what I want to leave you with. And that's what I want to see you do. And I'm super excited. I hate to see you leave, but I'm super excited about you moving on your own and going to do what you're going to do. I love it. I'm envious of your freedom at this point. So, and with that, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you guys for staying with us today and letting us share our insights on our family and just growing up in general. If you don't follow me on social media, you can look for me at Flint Rock with a PH on all of them. Also, make sure that you subscribe to the Old Man Energy website. That's going to be changing. We've got some insanely cool stuff coming down the pipe in the next 30 days. So you don't want to miss any of that. Also, hit the like and subscribe button to be notified as soon as a new video drops, as it does every Thursday morning at 5 a.m. Eastern. Love y'all. Peace.